So Mark Carney and Danielle Smith just signed a memorandum of understanding, and I've got to tell you, calling it a document is generous. It's more like a group project where nobody did the reading but everyone showed up to sign their names at the end. Welcome back to Canadian Insights, where we read political documents so you don't have to, and today we're diving into what might be the most beautifully ironic piece of paper to come out of Ottawa since Trudeau promised electoral reform. Here's the thing nobody's talking about. This MOU, this magnificent memorandum of understanding between the federal Liberals and Alberta's United Conservative Party, is technically non-binding, which in political terms means it's about as enforceable as a New Year's resolution. It's a pinky promise between two people who historically can't stand each other, dressed up in fancy government letterhead. But if you actually read this thing like literature, like really dissect it the way Northrop Frye would analyze a Shakespeare play, it becomes absolutely hilarious. And not in the way they intended. Let me break this down for you. Memorandums of understanding come in two flavors. You've got your binding MOUs, which are actual contracts with teeth. If someone backs out, lawyers get involved, courtrooms get booked, it's a whole thing. Then you've got non-binding MOUs, which are essentially elaborate fan fiction about a future that might happen if everyone plays nice and nobody changes their mind. Guess which category the Carnismith agreement falls into? If you guessed fan fiction, congratulations, you understand Canadian politics better than most MPs. Now here's where it gets delicious. This non-binding MOU about climate change and energy policy is literally a work of fiction by definition. And according to Frye, one of Canada's greatest literary minds, fiction shows us either the world as we wish it to be or a nightmarish world we hope to avoid. So Carney and Smith have essentially co-authored a creative writing piece about a Canada where Alberta and Ottawa hold hands and skip into a sustainable energy future together. It's adorable. It's also completely detached from the reality of the last decade of federal-provincial relations. Think about what this MOU represents as a narrative. You've got Mark Carney, former Bank of England governor, current Liberal leadership hopeful, champion of green finance, walking into Alberta with an olive branch. Then you've got Danielle Smith, whose political brand is basically built on telling Ottawa where to stick its policies, suddenly agreeing to cooperate on climate initiatives. This is like watching a romantic comedy where the lead spent the entire first act throwing drinks in each other's faces, and now they're supposed to convince us they're madly in love. The genre here is comedy, but the joke might be on us. Here's the comedy angle Frye would recognize immediately. In classic comedic structure, you have an outsider who gets integrated into society, often ending with a wedding. The Carnismith MOU is literally trying to be that story. Alberta as the rebellious outsider, isolated from the Canadian climate consensus, finally coming home through this symbolic union with federal policy. It's a wedding invitation to a marriage nobody's sure will actually happen, but hey, save the date anyway. But the tragic reading is even more interesting. What if this MOU fails? What if it's just empty words on fancy paper? Then you get the opposite narrative. Someone of high status, maybe it's Carney's political ambitions or Smith's credibility with her base, becomes isolated. Reputation dies. Political capital evaporates. That's the demonic world this document is trying to avoid, the nightmare scenario where everyone realizes the emperor has no clothes and this whole thing was performative nonsense from the start. The brilliant irony nobody's mentioning is that neither Carney nor Smith seems to understand what climate change actually demands. Real climate action requires binding commitments, enforceable targets, consequences for failure. It requires short-term pain for long-term survival. It requires someone to actually lead instead of just signing aspirational documents that read like a vision board from a corporate retreat. But this MOU? It's all vibes, no substance. It's the political equivalent of thoughts and prayers. Let's talk about what's really happening beneath the surface. Carney needs this for his leadership campaign. He needs to show he can work with conservative premiers, that is not just another Toronto elite who doesn't understand the West. Smith needs this because her war with Ottawa is getting exhausting and Alberta needs federal money for infrastructure. So they've created this beautiful piece of fiction where everyone wins and nobody has to actually do anything difficult. It's a masterpiece of political theater disguised as policy. The truly comedic element is the timing. We're signing non-binding climate agreements while the planet is actively showing us what binding agreements with physics look like. Wildfires don't care about memorandums. Droughts don't wait for federal-provincial cooperation. The climate is writing its own binding contract, and we're all co-signers whether we like it or not. Meanwhile, Carney and Smith are over here collaborating on what amounts to political fanfiction. And look, I get it. Politics is the art of the possible. Sometimes you need symbolic gestures to build momentum for real action. but let's call this what it is. This MOU is a press release with delusions of grandeur. It's a document designed to generate headlines, not outcomes. It's the kind of thing that sounds impressive in a campaign ad but dissolves like cotton candy the moment anyone asks what it actually commits anyone to doing. The gap between the goals of this agreement and objective reality is so wide you could drive Alberta's entire oil sands operation through it. The document talks about collaboration and shared objectives while Alberta continues to challenge federal environmental legislation in court. It promises cooperation on emissions reduction while neither party has actually changed any of their existing policies. It's like watching two people agree to go on a diet while actively ordering pizza. So what does this mean for regular Canadians? It means we get to watch another round of political theatre where politicians congratulate themselves for achieving nothing tangible. It means the gap between what we need to do on climate and what we're actually doing continues to grow. It means both sides get to claim victory without actually risking anything. It's peak Canadian politics, polite, non-confrontational, and ultimately ineffective. The Carnismith MOU is a perfect symbol of where we are as a country. We've got the vocabulary of climate action down pat. We can write beautiful documents full of inspiring language about sustainable futures and collaborative federalism. What we don't have is the courage to actually bind ourselves to doing the hard things that reality demands. So instead, we write fiction and hope the audience doesn't notice the plot holes. If you enjoyed this literary analysis of political nonsense, smash that subscribe button because I'm posting multiple videos every day breaking down the chaos that is Canadian politics. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next time our politicians do something simultaneously hilarious and depressing. And drop a comment telling me which political document you want me to dissect next. I'll be here, reading the fine print so you can laugh at the absurdity. This is Canadian Insights, where we turn policy into entertainment because honestly, what else can you do at this point?